Welcome to Hear Me Out, where I should have got D1 offers. We're just friends who like talking about sports. We're going to be starting today with whether or not centers still matter in the game of basketball. And we can start with Jesse on this.
And I do agree. Jacob was definitely a D1 hot dog eater. It was a shame that he injured his larynx. Couldn't do anything after that.
It was a devastating injury.
Anyway,
I still get emotional thinking about it.
We're talking about centers still being important in basketball. My answer is yes and no. It's a cop-out answer for sure. But my answer is yes, they still matter at this moment in time. My answer is no. If basketball keeps trending the way it does, they're not going to matter very quickly. And by saying they're not going to matter, I don't mean that you don't have to put a center on the court. You obviously do need to put a center on the court. I mean, you just need to put a 7-foot bag of flesh on the court to fill the center role. And that's the way it's trending very quickly. And the reason is the three-point shot. I mean, just plain and simple, it's the three-point shot. And it's Dirk Nowitzki. Dirk Nowitzki single-handedly killed the big man. Any way you want to shape it. I mean, the problem now is you can't have a guy like Shaq anymore because as dominant as he is, counting by threes beats counting by twos. It doesn't matter. With the amount of threes people shoot, if Shaq is spending 14 seconds backing a player down, doing a fancy footwork, his footwork was great, dunking it over two people, they're going to lose that game because the Rockets, with their 10 seconds left offense, if James Harden's still playing, are going to go down, take a three, boom, now they're up by one. And that's just the way it's going to go every single time down the court. And I get the argument, the last couple teams to win it besides the Warriors have had good big men. The Raptors had Marc Gasol, the Lakers had Anthony Davis. I think the power forward is much more important than the center is now, which it didn't used to be that way. The power forward used to be secondary to the center. Now with the advent of the stretch four, I mean, you can't have a big man who is a liability on perimeter defense anymore. Shaq was a liability on perimeter defense. He just wasn't quick enough laterally. Nowadays, you stick Kristaps on Shaq, pull Kristaps out to the corner. Shaq's going to have to cheat over to the corner because he can't just let Kristaps take threes. He's going to hit him all day. Now you don't have an interior defender anymore like that. You need a big man who can move out to guard someone on the perimeter these days. You have teams like the Warriors that don't even have a big center in there half the time when they have their death ball lineup. They have Draymond Green at 6'7" playing center. It's a position that's not dead yet, but it's definitely on life support.
I think it kind of is up to your definition of center, I guess. Maybe that's also a little bit of a cop-out. I think the center is the guy that you line up at the 5. So the center position in basketball is continuing to evolve slowly, I guess more and more quickly as time goes by. But no matter how much the center position reshapes, he's still going to be a center. No matter how many things he adds to the table, how many things he adds to his toolkit, he's still a center. He's not a center anymore just because he can do more things than shot block. I do agree that gone are the days of the Yao Mings where you have a 7'3" just oak tree who stands underneath the paint for 48 minutes a night, can't do anything, but if you dribble into the paint, he's going to smack you into the 9th row of the bleachers. Big men have to be a lot more versatile. They have to do a lot more, but they're still big men, they're still centers, and they're still vital to the team. And I think one of the biggest reasons for that is the anchoring that a big man provides. A really good center provides this constant rock to your team, offensively and defensively, that the other positions don't bring. They just don't. I mean, James Harden, for as great as of an offensive scorer as he is, he's had nights where he's gone 1 for 19 from the 3. I mean, it happens. Okay, Shaq never had nights where he was posting up guys, turning around, going to dunk, and then rim stuffing himself all night, and it's just, oh, sorry, I had a bad night, guys. It didn't happen.
He did have
Shaq.
nights where he got hack-a-Shaq, though.
Yeah, well, that's different. The premier big men in the league typically have relatively constant success in what they do. Down low, in the post, sometimes they can space out, but generally big men are pretty consistent in their game. And when Steph's having a bad shooting night, or for whatever reason Kyrie Irving just keeps turning the ball over, or whatever, whoever your star is, sometimes they're going to have an off night, and having that anchor, that steadfastness that a good big man provides. Maybe Joel Embiid can't do everything on the court. Maybe he's not the best ball handler. He can't shoot threes from the hash mark. He can't do much. But how many times have you seen the 76ers lose a game because Joel Embiid just was off? It doesn't happen much. It's very consistent basketball play, and I think that's just as important in the modern NBA as anything else is.
So there's two reasons I don't think that's true. There's one, if you look at the great teams, so just look at the trends. If you look at the great teams in the 80s and the 90s, the teams with the best centers were the best teams in the NBA. Your Kareem Abdul-Jabbars, your Hakeem Olajuwons, your Orlando Magic Shaq, the Lakers Shaq, whoever, Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, whoever you want to say, the best players were the best, or the best teams were the best centers. Nowadays, the best centers in the league, I mean, what Jokic at the Denver Nuggets, they made the Western Conference Finals. They're not a real contender. They're not, I mean, we just know that. We know that. The 76ers, they're not making it to the NBA Finals. Kristaps Porzingis doesn't even play center. I'm struggling to even come up with names of like premier all superstar centers because they're just not that around anymore. And my point with they don't matter anymore is the distance between where you get with an elite center and where you get with an average center is not that wide anymore. And that's what I mean when I'm saying they don't matter as much as they used to, and they're on the way to not mattering at all. Like, I'm saying you can throw out a replacement level center and get the same success with the way the NBA is trending. As long as he's 7 feet tall, as long as he can put a hand up when people are driving towards the basket, and as long as he's not a liability on perimeter defense, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. You don't need, that doesn't mean that they can't add value. You're right. They do add value. They add consistency. That's true. But you're not getting anywhere with just a superstar center. And like to see the point, all you need to do is look at what they're doing with big men now. Giannis has no business being a small forward at 6'11", but he is. Why? Because there's much more value in a small forward than there is in a center.
Yeah, I think Giannis being an absolute freak of nature athletically means all his athleticism is maybe a bit wasted at center.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like the center position can't get you where it used to be able to get you.
Yeah, I think to an extent. I think he doesn't have the natural strength to go against other centers and succeed, but he gives you the flexibility of having an actual center and then him slam dunking it all over people who are 5 inches shorter than him. I think, I mean, as you alluded to earlier, a lot of the teams that have had recent success with a couple asterisks have had great big men. The only ones that haven't are the Golden State Warriors, who just were a team with 3 of the most prolific scorers of all time on the same exact team at the same time. So yeah, when you have a team like that, you can kind of go outside
they
the
don't
norms.
count. I said that earlier. The Warriors don't really count.
Right. LeBron, when he won with LA, he has probably the best center in the entire NBA. But most of the other titles that he won, he didn't win with a great big man. But LeBron James took lottery teams to the finals. So,
yeah.
You know, he doesn't really count either when you have a guy like LeBron James willing your team to a championship win. I mean, even when he was in Miami, they didn't have a great center. I mean, Chris Anderson, I loved watching him, but we're not going to act like he was a great big man. So, with those exceptions, yeah, you don't need a big man to win the trophy as long as you have either the greatest basketball player of all time or the greatest team ever assembled in NBA history. But other than that, all the teams experiencing success today still have great big men. No, having a great center doesn't mean you're guaranteed a trophy anymore. But the teams with the success still have the great big men. And go ahead.
I get what you're saying, and I hear it, and I agree with it to an extent, which is why I said it's not dead yet, but it's moving that way. You're right. The teams with recent success, it's a great point. Even the Raptors had Marc Gasol. The Spurs had Tim Duncan, the greatest center of all time. I don't know why people say he's a power forward. Greg Popovich said he plays center. He played center. Yeah. But, yeah, the greatest of all time, I get it. But at the same time, teams are wanting their best player to be their small forward now. That's just the way it is. Luka Doncic, Kawhi Leonard, KD, LeBron, they want Giannis. They want their best player to be their best small forward. That's the most important position. That position used to be center for 30 years. So you wanted your best player to be your center for 30 years. Michael Jordan started to change it. Dirk Nowitzki came and put the nail in the coffin on the big man. He was a big man, but he played power forward, and he was a transcendental talent. He was nothing like the big man have ever came before him. Yep. So yeah, I get what you're saying. You have a point. But if you just look at the way the trends are going, the position's dwindling. It's not important anymore. And it could change. Tomorrow it could change. They could have some big men come out and dominate, and everyone wants to go back to big men. I don't see it happening. I think with the three-point shot being the way it is, it just doesn't matter as much anymore.
I can appreciate that. I think one reason that the NBA values small forwards so much is their unique blend of athleticism, where a lot of the freak small forwards in the NBA are 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", but running almost as fast as point guards, but can jump almost as high as the centers. They're just freak athletes, and that's why they tend to see the most success. But I think for a lot of teams, after you go past small forward, the next most vital position to their team is center. And we're not arguing, is center still the most important position in basketball? We're arguing, do centers matter? And they absolutely still do.
I'm going to disagree, though.
Okay.
Finish your point, but I'm going to disagree.
Well, I was about to go off on a long tangent, so if you had a counterpoint, you might want to get into it now.
Just really quickly then. Second most important position is point guard. Third most important position is power forward, then it's center at fourth. That's the way I have them right now. Your shooting guard doesn't matter. It's never mattered. Unless you have a transcendental shooting guard like James Harden or Michael Jordan, your shooting guard doesn't matter. They just need to be able to catch and shoot.
Yeah, but I mean, two of the players you named, Luka Doncic and LeBron James, I think you could have a very logical, healthy argument that those guys are point guards, not small forwards, because they're the ones.
Forwards, the new position, point forward. Yeah, you're right.
They run the offense, they bring the ball up, they do all the passing. They're basically point guards. They're just tall. So, But what was my point? Oh, I think my point of proving that I think the center position is going to continue to be important moving forward is this guy right here behind me. Admitted Heat fan, so a little bias here, but watching what Bam Adebayo has developed into and what he was able to do for our team has been so refreshing, and I feel like I'm watching him change the center position, because we have plays and possessions and whole stretches of the game where he genuinely brings the ball up and runs our offense, not because our point guards are too tired to do it, because it adds a legitimate new wrinkle to our offense, because now guys like Goran Dragic, I just forgot everyone on our team, Tyler Hero,
Jimmy Butler,
Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, Jay Crowder, Kelly Olynyk, all these guys, they're all able to play off ball, and we have a center who's able to dribble, pass, read an offense, all these things that big men have never done before. He makes up for the fact that he can't shoot that well by being the primary ball carrier, but guys are adding to their game all the time. And I agree, if you're one of those centers that can't shoot, can't dribble, can't pass, and can't guard the wings, but you're tall and can grab boards, you're not going to last long in the NBA. But I think center will continue to morph, and once we've kind of figured out what the modern center looks like, I think in a couple years, center will go back to being the most important position in basketball.
So that's fair. I disagree. I think the center's done. I think it's going to continue to be done. Your point about Bam, I didn't see that coming, but that's a great point. I should have seen it coming with the background. It's a great point. He's a transcendental talent. But are they going to beat the Nets this year? No. Well, I mean, with KD, you might say yes. I say no. With KD, the best small forward in the game, second best, maybe behind LeBron James. He's aging. And Kyrie, one of the best point guards in the game, the two most important positions, are clearly the favorite in the East. You have the Bucks to deal with. Their best player is a small forward. Their second best player is a shooting guard, but a guard still. I think center is the fourth most important position. I think you want a good small forward. You mentioned LeBron and Luka often play point forward, but they have a point guard on the court at all times too to help them run the offense. Point guard, your second most position. Then I think you want an athletic stretch for power forward. Then I think you worry about getting a big man, a big man being a center. Bam is an anomaly. I don't think he's the rule. I think he's the exception.
Yeah, maybe. I think in the modern NBA you see a lot of guys who maybe fit the mold of small forward sliding to power forward. I don't see the value in a true power forward as much because if you look at a lot of teams, the fours are not what they used to be anymore. I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge and Dirk Nowitzki and guys like that who ran power forward in the way they did, I agree, very, very important positions. But, I mean, you look at, like, the Lakers, yes, they had their lineups where they would have multiple centers on the court, but when it was just Anthony Davis, they did not have any true power forwards playing the four. Miami had Jay Crowder running the four. I think you're starting to see more and more times. The Clippers have Kawhi at the four all the time. These guys who aren't even power forwards.
That's unique, though, because they have two small forwards, so you got to put one at the four.
I think a lot of modern small or power forwards are really small forwards unless you have a two center lineup and then you just put the shorter guy at center or power forward I meant. And so I think the center will continue to change. I think power forwards are falling out of importance because they're just either small forwards who don't dribble as well as a small forward or centers who shoot better than the center does. I think it's kind of a lost position now. I agree point guard's vital. Small forwards are only so important because they're the best athletes on the court 9 times out of 10. But I think what the center brings to the table and what they're morphing into and will continue to bring to the table as a defensive and offensive anchor, I think when they really start to figure out what the 5 looks like, I think it'll go back to the most important position in the NBA.
Yeah, I think the center is it's much more of a morphing thing, not a becoming obsolete. I would compare it to like you could look at like the NFL, like the fullback. That used to be one of the most important offensive positions. That literally just became obsolete. You do not need a fullback. Teams don't do it anymore. I don't think the center is going the way of that.
You're gonna get a call from Bill Belichick in about 20 minutes.
That's normal. But I think center, the ideal version of a center, what a center is, it's their responsibility, their role on a team. That is just changing. But a center is not becoming less vital to a team. And I think you're just going to get more athletic centers that can play a little perimeter defense, has a legitimate threat from the three-point line, and your centers are going to start looking a lot more like Anthony Davis, a lot more like even Giannis. He would probably be more of like a mold of like the future center in the NBA. It's just going to get a little smaller, more athletic, more of a threat, an all-around game, but they're going to be absolutely vital on the court. So, with that said, thank you guys for watching. Let us know your opinion down in the comments below. Anything you want us to talk about, give us suggestions. We'll be open to anything. Thanks for watching.
See y'all.
See ya.